All right, so I'm here with you live. I've just started recording, but we're doing, it's coming up on 1:30 here on Thursday, and markets have been selling off most of the day. But I wanted to videotape this section of it because there's so many great examples in this chart that represent what the methodology that I trade, the methodology that I teach. All right, and that methodology has been developed over years. It wasn't something that I believed in the beginning. It was something like everyone goes through a process of learning from a beginner stage and not having a mentor, but going through everything that I had to go through to learn, techniques of trading and stuff. And the simplicity came about. I started discarding things that was more gambling or didn't have that, and there would be certain things that were left behind that really worked out, and things that we pay attention to: trend lines, moving averages, support and resistance. And then I was introduced to some more advanced indicators like the stochastic oscillator, and I really started studying that for over 10 years. And seeing and developing some things on my own around that and seeing how successful that was. And when you find something that works so well and it changes the game for you, it changes the game. And we'll have a lot of traders come on the show and say, things changed when I started learning divergences. They'll tell me this is a whole new ball game. I used to struggle all the time. Now I have the patience. It's a clear-cut path, but it's just not the only setup. And then we have a secondary setup, this understanding of, the psychology of the market sometimes, understanding trends, where momentum is, and how to enter a trend. You don't want to enter a trend at the top of the trend. You would rather enter a good trend on a pullback, a strong trend on a pullback. You want to short on the pullback too. So if you're heading down, you do want to short on that bounce. So you have a bounce here, a bigger trend down on the down trend line. You have a better chance of a short up against these lines. Anyway, that's near there. Anyway, what I wanted to just go over is just show you today's chart. I mean, it's just it's a beautiful education. It's like a textbook of setups that we normally take, or what we trade and what we teach. It's all here. Starting from 9:30 when the markets were sold off pretty hard. We had the first divergence out of the gate here. This came in at the support one pivot too, and a reversal candle. So it qualifies as an HPS setup. 3 out of 5 indicators that'll line up. And out of those 5 indicators, we're dealing with other ones, and we're adding reversal candles to it. And I know there's a lot of new listeners today because we locked out the outside. So maybe a lot of the terminology will be new to you and overwhelming. This might be too advanced, a lot of the stuff, or maybe not. If you can't. Just what I want to tell you is you're on the right path. You just don't give up. There is a little learning curve. And once you start to realize that you're going to venture off and try to find your own way, and then you're going to find, well, you know what, that way was a little bit, that I understand. It's illogical. I see it moving all the time. He's always there pointing it out and tells me exactly why it's there, and almost guaranteeing a move up from that. And I look back at these charts and I'll see that. So if you see that over and over again, you start to realize that's what you want to be waiting for. And that becomes the other part of the game, is having the patience to wait for those perfect setups. And you will have bad beats due to news and algorithms and boxes and trading programs and stuff. And sometimes levels will get pushed through. But we have things to tell us that when that's going to happen too. There's indicators on that. So anyway, start off with a divergence. Once we started building that trend line, and I think there was an upper trend line here. Let's see if that was established yet. It wasn't really established until this channel line. So once we broke down here, I think I put this downward trend line in, and we had this one in here. So we got to break down, and then what happens is 9 times out of 10 you move back up to the trend line. But in this case, you have 2 good pivots, and whenever you have a rising trend line and a falling trend line like this, they intersect, and what we call X marks the spot. And a lot of times we'll see that price react right to the X marks the spot, or you put a circle around that, you pretty much get within that distance of that X. We had a great trade the other night. It was an X marks the spot trade. It was a perfect trade. And we had a nice bounce on it to the buy side. This was an X marks the spot shorts setup. So you have the downward channel line, the rising retracement trend line, all those are for a short. And you can actually see this candle over here. See this little spike in the candle right here. Let me see if I can write it out for you here. Right here. That candle right here came up here, and look at this. We didn't even budge on there. There was such a steep divergence, you didn't even see the divergence. That was such a steep divergence that you didn't even see it. You should be able to, I don't know if the bot grabbed that or not. Probably not, probably because it might have not taken out the high officially. It looks like it was very, very close. But there's a technique I look for candles, and I call it the closing price double top divergence. But this was obvious looking back at it. It was an obvious good divergence. We didn't see any strength, even though the price popped. It held the trend line. And we had that big move down. Now here, just recently, we had a half an hour between this low and a half an hour, between this low and the following low. And on average, from doing this for, I was going to say thousands of years, feels like it. From doing it for so many years, I know, just looking at a 1 minute chart, and tell you where a 5 minute divergence is. Looking at certain things, I know, because I know how long these candles take. It's after a while you just start seeing divergences, candles, momentum, without even paying attention to it. You just notice it. So we looked at a 5 minute, and sure enough, the Rockbot came in with a 5 minute divergence right here at 12:30, and from that point on, any type of 5 minute divergence is stronger than a 1 minute, and we're going to look for a much bigger move. So right now, considering the downtrend, that 5 minute divergence gave us one of the best upside moves all day. And now it's hit its target. We went short, and now we're starting to pull back down into the pattern here. So I wanted to, videotape that section of it just to kind of give you an overview of what I like to do during the market, just kind of read the roadmap and let the next stop come to us. Here's a stop on the map here. We want to probably take a trade there. Maybe you want to take your position off here. We're constantly always adjusting and analyzing the market on a shorter time frame. But for those out there with a longer time frame, you don't have to you might want to carry the short over into the week, into tomorrow, not the weekend. It's not the weekend yet. And you might want to look at that. So this pattern might not play out. Maybe it's just saying, hey, that's my hedge. So I'm not saying, you don't want to micromanage everything too, and it could drive you crazy. It's starting to bounce, it's bouncing. Oh, it's oversold on the 1 minute. It's going to bounce and then it's going to go down. I'd like the 5 minute time frame because it gives us a longer time frame to be in the trade. And overall, if you look at that 60-minute big time frame, you can even play with that if that's in your direction. So right now, if we look at the markets, S&P 500, the 5 minute has been overbought. Here's a 5 minute divergence. We just went over that before. This is also a huge trend line. This was a perfect setup today on the 5 minute. It was a 5 minute divergence on a huge trend line, and many other things happening at that time. Got a nice move up. We're overbought. And it makes, like I said, these trades last as long as the stochastics don't get extremely overbought. And then once they do, you have to consider the criteria has been met. Your odds are you probably have a great, one of the better, what's the odds of it moving higher or moving lower at this point? The odds are moving lower. But a lot of us, smoke the hopium. And at that point, and I do too, because you want to get that move. You want to look maybe at a bigger time frame, and you're saying, oh, maybe the 60 minutes is turning back up. You don't want to yeah, I understand that. Could get a further move here. It could drive you crazy. So determine what time frame you want to trade and trade it. Don't second guess yourself. If you're in here on a 5 minute divergence, be out of here. Be out of here, on the 5 minute overbought level. And don't have to worry about the guessing game. And wait for your next setup. And that next setup, be it long or short, you know what to look for. And I'm looking for it with you, Let me pause it. I wonder if yeah, I am recording this. I need a Coke. I wanted to talk about this rising channel inside of a downward channel. Now, here we had a trend line over here. I never really marked out this, but what do you think the odds are if I take this nice channel line and I throw a parallel line to that lower pivot area here and see where that lines up? And see what it looks like.
Bass tweeting another potential $10 billion Chinese board and Chinese company listed on U.S. exchange, and GSX Citron hosting smoking gun.
And this was also kind of a wedge pattern, rising wedge pattern. It might even been a better rising wedge. That was a perfect angle for a wedge pattern. A head and shoulders top in any type of channel breakdown, a wedge or a rising channel. This is how you tell it's going to break down. You have a series of higher highs because the channel's moving up. So you have the high, a higher high, and a higher high. But that higher high fails. This was really just a nice setup overall. You had the downward pressure of the trend line also. And then we broke down. And then we came back, retested it, and then followed through. Same thing here. Now we have this downward channel. And what defines a downward channel breakout is usually an inverted head and shoulders pattern. So you get the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, the breakout, the retracement, and the follow-through. These little areas is what we're concentrating. We're being able to say, all right, we have a trading opportunity always on a pullback. Knowing where to be in. Having that discipline, knowing when to take your pitch. Swing, take. These will give you better odds.
SEEL,
It's not all guaranteed either. I mean, there will be program trades going off. There could be things that trigger that seem like a good technical move, but all of a sudden break down. But most of the time, we see this type of pattern, we break down. See this type of, divergences 9 out of 10 times. We're going to get that big move if we have a good divergence like this. Remember, different criteria for divergence. You have a mathematical divergence where that second high or low is it might be at 22. And the first one is at 20, but you really can't see it. It's almost like a flat line thing here, but you're getting called a divergence on the indicator. It's very hard to see. I want to see that. I want to see a very big difference between the low and the higher low. I want it to be above 20. The higher the better. And, I prefer to see other indicators line up also. But that's the pitch. That's the pitch. And then at this point, you're looking for downside. Anyway, this is the same type of pattern. Rising channel, head and shoulders, possible breakdown now coming. A better chance of a breakdown here. Apron here, APRN, still at the lows. I put an order in to sell some apron, but I didn't know if I was going to get it or not. It's at 550, and it's not moving. It's like I'm a little disappointed in that. I had such a good short on it, but it didn't pay off like I expected to yet. Imagine doing this just with the MES. You have very little risk. You could trade these, back and forth. It's pretty easy to manage them, add to them, repair positions that might get away from you, especially if you're trading around the VWAP. Sometimes, I love trading around the VWAP. I always, a first attempt, second attempt into the VWAP. A lot of times it goes through it, and it's kind of that. I always expect that to go through, so it's always better to short the VWAP a little bit past the VWAP. Don't think of it as breaking through the VWAP. I'm going long. Just think that there's always that, that plus or minus, a range around that it clears out stops and orders and stuff. Or this could be adjusted actually. This VWAP internal, parameters on this could be adjusted to make this, see if it could somehow tune it a bit, like we could do with stochastics and stuff. I'd be interested in messing around with that if I could figure that out. Restarting the video here, coming into the last half hour, and like we mentioned earlier in the day, is following this chart like following a street map or a hiking map and understanding the terrain of the area you're trading. Seeing these divergences play out, we had a perfect textbook divergence right here. It was a really nice one. It was a clear higher low on above the 20 line, everything we need, plus a reversal candle, plus really fighting with this zone here. This is a zone that just, you could see these candles start wicking out, really having a hard time, and then finally giving us a divergence, and after that divergence, getting that big fast pop back up to the 200 period moving average, which has been its its line in the sand right now. It has not gotten through this level at all. And we're not talking about getting through it like that, but getting through it, testing it, holding it, and moving up from it. But fantastic signals all day long. This is, again, great market conditions, I think. Even if you have a downward trend, there's a lot of examples here of different areas you want to concentrate on. And there's multiple trading opportunities in this market here. Multiple trading opportunities. Divergence, you should take that. The trend line retracement, X marks the spot. The bigger 5-minute divergence. The 1, 2, 3 pattern. The retracement, X marks the spot, pullback, and then a break back. Divergence, pop. I like the Boeing trade here. I like it. I think it's a little expensive, but I think it's worth it. All right. Hey, I'm actually picking up this video on a Friday. I was doing this video yesterday on Thursday, and it just ran out of time during the day. We were trading and stuff. But right now, we just had a divergence. And I want to wrap up this video because I'm in the middle of the HPS watch list. And I'm talking about the bot here and stuff, and being able to get alerted to the perfect divergence. This is a real nice divergence, so I just wanted to jump on the camera right now and just point that out right before I close out this video and send it over. I'm going over to the bot channel now, and you can see in the upper left-hand corner, it's in that trade right now. I'll see if I can zoom it in a little. The market has been trending down all day. It's down 86 points, as you can see, over like 500 points on the Dow. But this is a nice divergence. When we have a divergence, we usually break through, a channel that we might be in. It's a tight channel right now. Just if you look, it's a very tight channel. So we're already breaking through that. It's not a very defined wide channel where we're going to get a much more bigger upside, but as you can see, it is moving in the right direction right now. So I'm in the middle of that. So I was just going to wrap this video up. It'll go out with the high probability watch list. But just remember what we talked about in this video, how important it is to have the patience to wait. And today is, again, Friday, and I haven't traded the market. I've been working. I had my head down. I haven't even really looked up, except to get out of my shorts this morning, and then I went to work. But now I'm looking at the market, and we're at about 130, and we just had that divergence. Now I'm just looking back at this chart right now because I didn't really follow it today. So I want to see what we had. It looks like there was a nice sell side divergence here. That was a much nicer divergence here, as the lows, you had the series of lower lows. It was like a running divergence, and then it finally went down. I'm not seeing anything else other than right here is the next big divergence I see. And that's a real kind of a steeper one here. It's holding above that 20 line on that little dip. This has been turning up. We're oversold on this. Actually, we're actually seeing a divergence here. This is actually a very nice setup here. I would actually take a long here. If now it's a 5-minute divergence. You'll probably see that 5-minute setup, and you might even see a super signal if we get that 5-minute setup before everything. Oh my God, this is such a good setup here. Let's see. Oh, did we get a super signal? Let's see what happens. We need a candle to close here, and for the 1 minute to continue to be active. So when you are setting up your super signal on the bot, sometimes I let this have a little extra room because you need to have this move up a candle to trigger. You need a confirmation candle and it needs to trigger. So you have to get through that 5-minute period versus here, it could easily get through that profit zone and take profits before this triggers. And if this is not triggered, this one won't trigger. But
order submitted.
There it is. See, it is.
Order filled. Order filled.
So that's
Order
a 5-minute
submitted.
here.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
And if we go back down here, look
Order
at this.
Filled.
And that's already, that took profits on the first one. Just a little pullback at a trailing stop. But you can see this low here and this lower low. And I can see it on the 60 period right here, how we actually held that 20. That's a very important little tip right there. Whenever you start to see a divergence on that 60-10, that last level down here, that is the 5-minute time frame. That's what I look for. That's the big mover usually in the market. So let's see. A lot of pressure in the market today. We're at the lows. But this would be the best setup. Let's take a look at the cash chart right here. And I'm saying, that would be, that's your spot you had to take. You had to take that trade. All right, here's the 5-minute cash chart. And it is giving us a divergence. It actually gave us a divergence back here and a little move. It gave us a divergence here with a nice little 10 minute, 15-minute move up. Gave us a little divergence here, and you can see the candles moving up. And then you can see we just got a divergence here. So this has been slowly trending down, but the 5-minute has been spot on if you were looking for a counter trend trade. Just a couple candles. Remember, each one of these candles is 5 minutes. So this is a 15-minute kind of move in the direction of where your trade is. So it's not to say that's actually working out good. Gets overbought quickly and turns over and comes down. So this, like I said, this looks like a pretty decent level. On the 5-minute, I'm just going to look on the 3. 3's not really giving you anything to look at. I'm just catching up again. I'm probably going to review a lot of this on the HPS watch list. 60's oversold. And the daily had that follow through, and we're coming back down to a trend line. So, tough Friday for the. Let's see what happened there. Like I said, this is the 5-minute setup here. Apple's been kind of giving back all its gains. This looks to go higher here. I would say so. There we go. Beautiful. 1 minute divergence, 5-minute divergence. Really a super signal. 5-minute setup, 1 minute setup. Back over that 28.19 level we've been watching for the last 2-3 weeks. There's a line in the sand now. Trend is still down, and the move has been made based off the signal. So honestly, we can't look for a total change of direction today. We probably get a bounce and then eventually roll back over. Still seeing a lot of other things. Anyway, I got another whole video to do, so I'll catch up on the other one. I want to get this out there. Hope you enjoyed this video and kind of got something out of how important it is to stick to the strategy, the divergence, the trend line reversals, understanding when you should be in and when you should be out, and have patience. Have patience to wait for these setups. They work.